Morning, everyone, and welcome to our second session on the Birmingham Cultural Intelligence Framework, where we'll be discussing the pilot phase. If you haven't watched our previous session on the Cultural Intelligence Framework, going into what it's about, please watch the other video. It will be on the YouTube playlist. So just a recap of sort of the background to BCIF. So the Birmingham and Lewisham African Caribbean Health Inequalities Review, which is shortened to BLACKIR, explored the health inequalities affecting African and Caribbean communities, the best way to address them, and recommendations to break structural inequalities and achieve sustainable change. The report followed a thematic approach to considering health inequalities, drawing on the life course model and the wider determinants of health. The findings of the report explores 39 opportunities for action across 8 themes, and from this, 7 key priority areas have been identified, including cultural competency, under which cultural intelligence and cultural humility and safety lie, under the theme trust and transparency. So trust and transparency, so the review calls for cultural competence training of health and social care professionals led by the NHS, integrated care systems and the councils. So we built on the area of trust and transparency. There has been an exploration of how to strengthen, create and improve cultural competency using an evidence-based, co-produced approach. From that, we created 2 pillars for action, which were cultural intelligence and cultural humility and safety. So cultural intelligence is aimed at managers, leaders, and those working with specific communities, whereas cultural humility and safety is aimed at everyone. We have got 2 other videos on cultural humility and safety, so if you are interested, please go and watch those. Cultural humility and safety focuses on cultural competency at an interpersonal level, whereas cultural intelligence is focused at strategic leadership and population level. Whilst both are important to develop and support, cultural humility and safety training should be mandatory for everyone to develop a core skill set. Cultural intelligence then builds upon this, going the further step to develop knowledge and understanding of specific communities. So a quick overview of the Cultural Intelligence Framework. It's a training and development toolkit to help individuals and organisations build, strengthen and evidence their deeper understanding and approach to enabling and empowering different communities of identity and experience. The framework, as we mentioned before, is aimed at individuals in leadership or managerial positions, organisations working with specific communities' identity, and individuals who have already received cultural humility and safety training. So you'll see on the right, we have the 7 different domains of the framework: curiosity, understanding, conscious decision-making and allyship, advocacy and anti-discrimination, and the final one, game changer. So each competency domain contains a lay description, a short description, a detailed cultural competency domain definition, activity resource mapping, and a case study. So this is a quick overview of the differences between cultural intelligence and cultural humility and safety. So the definition for cultural intelligence refers to an individual's ability to understand, adapt to, and effectively interact with people from different cultural backgrounds. It includes a set of capabilities, knowledge, and understanding of how people from different culture live and behave. Cultural humility is a lifelong process of self-reflection and self-critique to understand personal and systematic biases and to develop and maintain respectful relationships based on trust. Individuals acknowledge themselves as a lifelong learner and start with an examination of their own beliefs and cultures, with cultural safety being an outcome-based, respectful engagement that recognises and strives to address power imbalances inherent in systems. It results in an environment free of racism and discrimination whereby everyone feels safe, with the focus for intelligence being a strategy and policy development for specific communities, with the humility and safety having interpersonal interactions as the focus. So yeah, we previously discussed the audience. The training objectives for intelligence is to develop, strengthen and evidence a deeper understanding and approach to enabling and empowering different communities of identity and experience, whilst developing core skills for developing cultural intelligence across 7 domains. Humility and safety's objectives are to develop the skills and confidence to develop a culturally humble mindset and engage in culturally safe interactions with others. The format for intelligence is self-directed learning using tools and using the tools provided. continuous learning, and it has a flexible approach. So you would choose specific communities to focus on and then the specific domains. Whereas with humility and safety, it's skills-based with a minimum half-day training session plus ongoing self-reflection. The assessment for intelligence is peer review and challenge, and humility and safety is post-course skills, confidence and knowledge assessment, with the tools provided for intelligence being competency criteria, reflective practice templates, audit tools and case studies. Humility and safety, the tools are training knowledge and skills framework, a commissioning checklist, post-course evaluation tools, and evidence-based tools. So how were both frameworks developed? So we started off with an evidence review with the humility and safety. We also did mapping, and we then developed both frameworks. With BCIF, we co-produced this with the Black Year Cultural Intelligence Task Force. And then we ran testing for both workshops, with the testing for BCIF taking part in October last year with the council staff. The implementation of recommendations followed, so we compiled feedback and made amendments when necessary. And now the current stage where we are launching the pilot of the framework with expression of interest being made available. We are also running an external academic evaluation with the tender being open in the middle of February. And afterwards, we will collate evidence from the evaluation and strengthen the cultural intelligence framework before a wider rollout. So the aim of the pilot phase is to assess the effectiveness and impact of the Birmingham Cultural Intelligence Framework. So we will launch the one-year pilot phase in spring 24 to test BCIF implementation within 3 to 5 organisations. We will commission 2 external academic partners to evaluate each framework on individuals and organisations' implementation of it. The provider will work alongside pilot organisations throughout the programme. So as you mentioned before, with cultural intelligence, we focus on a specific community when we move through the different domains of practice. Our goal when we launch BCIF on a wider scale is to have resources for every community of identity. However, with the pilot, we've chosen to just focus on 10, just to make it a bit easy with the resources. So we've got 10 different ones. So we've got 5 ethnicities: Somali, Nigerian, Caribbean, Polish and Pakistani. 2 faith groups, so Muslim and Sikh. 2 disability groups, so the visually impaired and blind and the hearing impaired and blind. And 1 LGBT group, which is the trans community. So the reasoning behind these groups is because they link to our deep engagement partner work with communities team, and also sort of their relevance within the Birmingham area, as this is where we're launching the initial pilot. So if you're interested in taking part in the framework, what would your organisation be required to do? So we split this into 3 different groups: staffing, resources and communication. When it comes to staffing, we would require a minimum of 10% of staff in an organisation or department participating in using all or part of the framework. A minimum of 15% of reflective practice templates being peer reviewed, and 25% of these being externally peer reviewed for quality assurance. You would need to identify a named BCIF coordinating officer within the organisation to oversee and support local implementation of the framework. So what resources would we require from you? So we would need to provide some learning resources, time and activities to support people to develop competencies. We will supply a resource list, but we do encourage people to go out and find their own resources to support their own learning. You would need to define and work towards metrics of success for your organisation and establish a clear internal platform for knowledge and information dissemination. So, for example, a section of the intranet and a supporting communication and engagement process to promote the framework. You would need to establish an electronic submission process for reflective templates to be submitted once completed for peer review. And you'd be working with the external academic evaluator and the council to capture the required data learning and adapt based on the evidence during the year. Communication-wise, you would need to have regular updates on project developments, milestones, and relevant news through webinars and direct communication channels. And there would be monthly collaborative virtual meetings to discuss progress, address challenges, and share best practices among partner organisations. So what can we provide as Birmingham City Council? So we provide you with a named liaison officer within BCC to act as a key point of contact for partner organisations during the pilot year, alongside monthly partnership meetings. We provide advice and support for partner organisations and core training for peer review staff through virtual workshops. We provide a menu of activities to support learning and competency development for each of the 7 domains of practice for the pilot community's identity. And we would provide access to a range of virtual learning materials which organisations can use to supplement their local offerings. We'll also establish a robust two-way communication channel for partner organisations to provide feedback, ask questions and share insights. And we facilitate the external academic evaluation of the pilot phase, culminating in a comprehensive final report documenting outcomes and lessons learned alongside recommendations for future implementation. So we've got an example of how the framework could be used within a specific organisation. This is just an example, so it may look different depending on the organisation, but this should just give you an idea. So your organisation would sign up to the BCIF pilot with a cohort of staff who are enrolled to the framework with a designated BCIF officer assigned. Your staff would agree with the line manager and a coordinator which community to focus on, as well as which domains to focus on, with a minimum of 2. The organisation would create BCIF champions who will commit to reaching 6 of the 7 domains. This isn't a requirement, but it's just a suggestion of how it could be implemented. And the organisation agrees to allow staff 6 designated hours for each domain to be achieved over 6 months. Staff use resource lists and their own research, documenting their work in the reflective practice exercise and discussing with their manager in potentially one-to-one sessions. And staff submit reflective practice exercises to online HR portals, with a designated BCIF officer peer reviewing 15% of these exercises. And then participating staff are issued certificates for each completed domain from their organisation. So what's the timeline with BCIF? So it's not currently February, so we've now sent out the expressions of interest to organisations, and we're running these webinars to communicate the offers. So at the end of March, on the 31st, the expression of interest and the tender for the evaluations will close. And the start of April, we will begin the process of reviewing the applications, with partner selection announcement for the pilot and the evaluation being towards sort of the middle of the month. In May 2024, we will agree partnerships with organisations and initially start the launch of the pilot. And then between June 2024 and June 25, there'll be staff training and the data will begin to be collected for the framework. And then April to June 2025, the evaluation would conclude, and then we will disseminate our findings in a final report. So thank you for attending the session today. For more information on the BCIF framework, you can watch our first video that that's in the playlist. As a reminder, the expression of interest will close on the 31st of March. If you are interested, please contact the communities team at communitiesteam@birmingham.gov.uk, and we'll be able to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.